Hey everyone, we're going to be talking about Vega. The mecha is Vega and the human is Envy. Envy pilots this mecha, the ace pilot. This character has version 1 and version 2 of their powers, so you're going to be picking 6 powers at the start of each game. I'm going to be going over both sides of the roll card because it is a double-sided roll card, and I'll be going over 6 of the powers that you can choose from, but there are up to 12 you can choose from, and there are version 1 and version 2 of each of these powers. So first I'll talk about the setup, which isn't present here, but the setup cards, you're going to choose 6 V1 powers from your deck at the start of the game, and you start the game on Mecha side, which is the Mecha roll card here. You gain upgrade through your human abilities. So as you see, this is the human side. When I flip my roll card, I will be gaining upgrade because on the bottom of each power there are human effects down here, and you can heal or upgrade. You upgrade through your human abilities. You may spend 10 upgrade to swap a V1 power to an upgraded V2 power anytime. Doesn't matter if it's exhausted or unexhausted, you can level it up and it always comes into play unexhausted. The max overheat is 15 and the max upgrade is 15. We're going to be talking about overheat here in a second. So let's talk about the roll card now, which will get into overheat. Each time you activate an ability while in Mecha, you're going to be gaining an overheat. When you activate an ability at 4, 5, or 6 overheat, you're going to deal yourself 1 damage. So if I have 3 overheat and I activate Beam Saber, I will not be dealing myself 1 damage. I will deal 1 damage for each overheat, so I will deal 3 damage. I'll deal 1 damage 3 times, and then I will gain the overheat. So now if I had, say, 5 overheat, I would deal myself 1 damage, and then resolve this effect, and then gain the overheat. So activate ability, deal yourself damage based on overheat, complete the ability's effect, and then gain overheat for that ability's activation. Yep, at 10 plus you deal yourself 5 damage. So you really do not want to be over 10 plus. But how do you avoid, or how do you remove overheat? Well, there's an always active down here. You're immune to replacement effects. If you're forced to replace 2 or more powers at a time, deal yourself 2 damage. So if a boss made you replace 6 powers, you don't replace any of them. Instead, you just take 2 damage. If you're forced to replace 1 power, you don't take any damage. It's just whenever you have to replace 2 or more powers, you have to deal yourself 2 damage. You may flip your roll at any time during the player attack phase. So what happens when we flip our roll? We go to the human side here. This roll could be targeted by heal effects. Whenever you, another player, or an effect heals your roll, you may remove 1 overheat for each point healed. Additionally, for each power you do not refresh when spending morale, you may instead remove 1 overheat. You only have access to your human effects on your abilities instead of the normal ability. You can't gain overheat when you're on human side. So your overheat only goes down. And the reason it clarifies that is because you have this power down here, overdrive, which as long as this power is on your player board, gain 1 overheat at the start of each round. So you won't do that as long as you're on the human side. Yeah. You're immune to replacement effects. If you're forced to replace 2 or more powers at a time, deal yourself 2 damage. You may flip your roll at any time during the player attack phase. Well, this probably will change right here, this overdrive to it's always going to increase the overheat because people can abuse the flip effect here now that I'm thinking about it, so that is a good catch. So let's go over the powers now. You're going to be dealing 1 damage for each overheat. These count as separate attacks. So if Anmei, for example, is in a game and she uses her flip and you have 8 overheat, this would deal 16 damage on 3 dice. And you would deal yourself 3 damage. Why would you deal yourself 3 damage? Because Anmei's attacks make you deal plus 1 damage, so you would deal yourself plus 1 damage. So you deal yourself 2 damage for having 8 overheat, and then plus 1 damage. So yes, it's comboing here, but Anmei's flip effect is also hurting you. The bottom is deal 10 damage and armor shred 1 for each overheat. So 5 dice, you can do a good amount of damage, or you can heal 4 or gain 3 upgrade. So to get about 10 upgrade, you're going to be spending about 17 to 18 dice to upgrade to a level 2. Let's go to the level 2 version of this. And yes, most of these are missing flavor text still, but there's a couple here, as you can see, like Beam Saber has flavor. So the level 2 version is deal 2 damage for each overheat. These count as separate attacks. again, like I said, if you activate it, if you activate at 9, 7, 8, or 9 overheat, you're going to be dealing yourself 3 damage if like a character such as Unmei uses her flip. The bottom is deal 12 damage, armor shred 2 for each overheat. You heal 4, gain 3 upgrade. The healing and gaining upgrade does not increase with higher versions of the mecha pieces. So let's go back to V1 over here. Elemental Shield deals with like removing counters, and if you have 8 or more overheat, you choose 2. And then here it's just more prevention, but you choose 2 if it's 7 or more overheat. Fire Thorns down here. Fire Thorns is you deal damage. If you take 3 damage from an enemy, you deal 3 burn back to that enemy. You gain Fire Thorns +1 if you have 6 or more overheat. So Fire Thorns 2, if you took 3 damage, you would deal 6 burn back to that enemy. So same thing here. If you had 5 or more overheat, you activate this and you took 3 damage, you would deal 9 burn to that enemy. So pretty nice. Wings here is really cool. The top has an always active as long as this power is on your player board. If the enemy attack phase were to occur before the player attack phase, swap it back. There's many decks now, many fights where the enemies may attack first. This power is great because it swaps it back. And then if you do upgrade it, you add a counter to this power at the start of each round. At 5 counters, remove all counters and gain an additional player attack phase before the enemy attack phase. You cannot spend morale to refresh this round though. And just V1 down here is just prevent damage for each enemy in the combat. Just no max on the V2 version of it, and you gain reflect. And you gain reflect if you have a certain amount of overheat, which is 8 or more. Deal 2 damage and deal 1 surge. Surge is a new damage mechanic where if you deal 5 surge, it instantly deals 10 damage to an enemy. But if, say, you have 4 surge on an enemy, it keeps dealing 1 damage at the end of the player attack phase. And if it kills an enemy, it moves to the next enemy. So surge sticks around and keeps going until it hits 5, and then they all get removed, dealing 10 damage instantly. So the level 1 version of that is you deal +1 burn for every 2 overheat and +1 surge for every 3 overheat. And it's decreased to 1 and 2. Yes, a lot of stuff's missing underlines here as well. That will be fixed. Deal 3 burn, deal 2 spore, deal 1 surge. It just does a lot of counter damage. The V2 is the same thing. It's just reduced the cost of this ability by 1 die for every 3 overheat. And it just deals more. It says 3, 2, 1. It deals 4, 3, 2. So for 5 dice, you're dealing 9 counters. And you could, if you had 6 overheat, you could reduce that by 2 dice. So just 3 dice. So this overdrive here, as long as this power is on your player board, gain 1 overheat at the start of each round. I will make this apply to the human form because now that I'm thinking about it, people can abuse it since it happens at the start of the round. You could just flip your roll if you have this and kind of get around the negative effects of the always active. So I will say you can gain overheat when you're in human side, or I'll just try to close that little cheat method. But the passive here is your first ability cost is reduced by 2 dice. This is level 2 version, and deal yourself 2 damage. Your attacks deal +2 damage this round. Or the level 1 is you deal yourself 1 damage, your attacks deal +1 damage this round. If Luthia is in the game and this power is not exhausted, Luthia gains each time she gains a cobble, she may instead remove an overheat from Envy. This allows her to remove overheat even when Envy is in Mecha. Really cool. And the same thing, the Overdrive version 2 is the same for the bottom. And then last but not least, the Titan Breaker. This ability can only be activated when fighting bosses. Deal 15 damage +1 damage for each counter on this power. If overheat is 10 or more, deal +5 damage. This is not the correct flavor. Like I said, a lot of this flavor is missing except for a couple of these powers. And the bottom is add a counter to this power. This power does not exhaust. If 5 or more overheat, you add +1 counter. This power ever becomes exhausted, remove all counters. You keep the counters when upgrading. So if you have 5 or more overheat, you put 2 counters on this. So you keep ramping up the bottom. This is like an ultimate boss killer, but it doesn't do anything until the end of the game. So the version 2 of this, so if you do spend 10 upgrade to get it, add a counter to this power, it does not exhaust. If overheat is 4 or more, add +2 counters, and only costs 1 dice. But you have to invest a lot just to upgrade this, and then you have to start funneling counters into this. And then once you get to a boss, you probably could one-shot it, but there's a lot of investment that goes into this for sure. I do think this will go back down to 1 counter here. See the version 2 here, and it'll probably go up to 2 or 3 dice. I think it will still stay 3 dice. So this will go to 3 dice here on the version 2, but you will be getting 3 counters, and the top will be doing +2 damage for each counter. Or the bottom may stay the same cost and still only give 2 counters, but the top will be stronger. So I think we still have to go through and make sure some of these abilities are balanced, but overall this is how the character is going to play. You're probably only going to be upgrading 1 or 2 of your powers in any given game, because 10 upgrade you're going to have to invest you're going to have to exhaust 4 of your powers and upgrade, invest 18 dice. That's going to take a while, and you have so much downtime on your character removing overheat. So you may think, oh wow, these abilities are really, really powerful. That is true, his abilities are really powerful, but he has to manage his overheat. So constantly, say once I get to 7 overheat, if I flip my roll, I just need to spend 5 dice just to remove 4 overheat. It's a lot. So of course this character is going to be doing 50% more damage than a normal character, because you're constantly going to have a lot of downtime. So, and overheat, there's no other way to remove overheat besides healing and spending morale. You're not going to be removing overheat between boss deck cards or anything. If Luthier's in the game, she can pretty much give up her character's progression system to remove overheat, but yeah, that means she's not going to be doing much, since all of her abilities will be level 1. And that's if you take the overdrive, and that's if she's in the game. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's 6 other powers. Those will be secret until this character's released. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you. Bye.